All right, thank you for joining. We're going to be starting the show here just in a second. And yeah, this is going to be a good one, folks. Maggie, you've been waiting for this a little bit, that I cover some of these more political things. But I want to point out the fact that we do not live in a democracy. We are not protecting the democracy. A democratic method would be the only way in order to enact law, but we have laws to prevent the democratic method from taking over. And that is what's happening. That is what they're claiming that they're protecting, as a democratic method. No, we're protecting the republic, not the democracy. So stick around. I've got plenty of evidence to show. I said no later. Gone and lost your fucking mind.
Please do not be alarmed by anything you see or hear around you. You are bound to feel some initial ill effects, as you've been rescued from certain death at an improbability level of 2 to the power of 267,709 to 1 against, possibly much higher. We are now cruising at a level of 2 to the power of 25,000 to 1 against and falling, and we will be restoring normality as soon as we are sure what is normal anyway. Thank you.
WDRN Productions and WDRN Production staff may be considered complete works of fiction. Any similarity to reality is only due to the dimensional rift in the perspective vortex. Please adjust your perspective vortex translator devices for enjoyable listening pleasure. WDRN can take no responsibility for improperly adjusted perspective vortex translations and currently operating at the frequency of somatic 900 megahertz.
This is a public warning. Do not put dead squirrels in your back pocket. This can damage your washing machine. Over $3.4 million was spent on dead squirrel removals last year alone. And there is a shortage of dead squirrel removal and extraction technicians. Yes, you can be part of this exciting new growing field. Yes, you can be a qualified, bona fide, licensed dead squirrel extraction and removal technician in just under 6 weeks. Don't wait. Call now. 1-800-BIG-PROMISES. Call it now to get your free full-color sucker evaluation survey and return it with just $500 certified check or money order. So call now. 1-800-JUST-SAY-NO-TO-DRUGS.
All right, thank you for tuning in today. We do have a show for you. I have done my best in order to try to make sense out of the news. The fact is, there is no making sense out of it. All right, there's a few stories I have, and then I'm going to get into the election. But this bullshit with the banks pushing people around, I got news for you. There's always been a remedy. You can always go back to court and take these banks to court, and you will win. This guy not only won, but he turned around and foreclosed on the bank. Watch.
This morning from Philadelphia. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. So explain this for us. You actually had a home that Wells Fargo came to you and said, look, you need to take out a homeowner's insurance policy that you don't think it's worth the value of your home. What did you do to Wells Fargo in response?
I told them I wasn't going to renew that policy that they were having me renew. I had an insurance policy on my house, which I had bought for $180,000. And Wells went to the insurance company and said that they wanted me to insure it for $1 million. And as you can imagine, the premium on a policy like that is through the roof. So I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, we're going to do it for you. And they force-placed an insurance policy for me that doesn't cover me. It only covers them. And that was the genesis of a dispute with them that's been running for nearly 2 years now.
Well, we did reach out to Wells Fargo, got no response from them. It sounds just like your experience with them, no response at all. Are you surprised by
Welcome to the
that?
world of dealing with Wells Fargo. No, I'm not surprised at all.
You also then found an interesting loophole, or not a loophole, but you found an interesting law dating back to the 1970s, which enabled you to work this angle, which is they needed to respond to you within 20 days. They needed to respond to you with written responses to your inquiries. They didn't do so, and therefore you were able to place a levy on their office and foreclose on them?
That's true. There's a law called RESPA, and there's a 20-day window that they have to acknowledge receipt of your request, and then they have 60 days to actually respond to that request. And if they don't, it's possible for you to collect damages and even additional fines on top of the damages. So I took them to court here in Philadelphia through the municipal court system. I won a judgment. They ignored the judgment. The court advised them they had to pay. They ignored that court's advice. And so I got a sheriff's levy, and when they ignored that, I ordered a sheriff's sale on their branch in downtown Philadelphia. And they still weren't going to pay. But let me tell you, when the media coverage started and it was on the front page of the business section that their office furniture was going to be sold off to pay a judgment, I had a check in my hands the next day.
Brilliant. And I can imagine a lot of viewers this morning waking up wondering if they're in a similar position. Do you think that your story opens the floodgates for other people watching this morning?
I think it does. I mean, people ask me what I hope to get out of this, and one thing is if I wind up being the Johnny Appleseed of RESPA letters, I would absolutely love for that to be my epitaph. These RESPA letters are not difficult to write. There are numerous consumer resources sites on the internet. There's government sites on the internet that will help you with that process. And these RESPA letters, the banks are legally required to respond to them. So I would say to consumers, these are a very important tool if you're having a problem communicating with your mortgage lender.
Patrick Rogers from my home city of Philadelphia, good luck to you, and thanks for coming in and telling your story this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Patrick. Coming up here on the show, the budget protests in Wisconsin.
It's not deja vu. This is something far worse than occurred in Watergate. We have both a criminal president of the United States in Donald Trump and a subversive president of the United States.
Carl Bernstein, whose work as an investigative journalist on the Watergate scandal led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon, appeared on CNN with Frederica Whitfield Sunday.
All right, fact check. First of all, the Watergate scandal was not based on the recording itself. It was based on the fact that there was missing portions of the recording. That it was censored in some way. Okay. In addition to that, it was illegal for that recording to be reduced or released to the public. It was an edited recording released to the public by whom? Obviously in a political slant. Is that correct? Correct, sir. So where's the rest of the recording, sir? This is implicating you. And where is the rest of the recording? Has anybody in this audience actually listened to those recordings other than me? I haven't listened to them recently, but it did suggest criminal activity by somebody. And then that criminal activity, after it was suggested, is mentioned directly and the person involved, and those are removed. That was the crime. There was a second crime. The second crime was releasing that to the press. However, as soon as it was released to the press, and even though it was censored, there was nothing they could do in order to stop the press from reporting it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. As soon as it became public, there's nothing they can do. They can just sit there and hope that it doesn't do too much damage. Because the only reason why it would do damage is because it shouldn't have been public. And because why? Because it was illegal, unlawful. It was legal, but it was unlawful. You see, there's several statutes that claim that as long as the police is acting in good faith, that any claim that they are acting illegal is irrelevant. Well, it is, because whatever illegal action, in other words, you can describe it in legal terms. I approached, he had a problem, blah, blah, blah. We decided to take a legal action, which was to confiscate his gun. Okay, these are descriptions of legal actions. Were they illegal? Did he do them out of order? Well, maybe he confiscated the gun first and asked questions later. That would be illegal, but it's still a legal action he took. Well, the determination of legal or illegal is irrelevant. It's still legal action. And then, so is it lawful? Is it knowingly and willingly lawful? You see, that's where we lose it in this language, is because we don't realize that there is a definite difference between that. And when you say, oh, he's operating illegally, oh, well, he's operating in good faith. And if you were to say unlawfully, the legal documentation of his operation is now judged to be something else. Unlawful. A crime. Unlawful is a crime. Illegal is a procedural issue. Get it? All right. So, lady is very upset with me. We're not doing our cuddles this morning. But she has got into the equipment, got into my wires, pulled them, that will not sit still. So she got shunned a little bit early this morning. Anyway, so this is Trump. And like I said, has anyone heard these recordings? I don't think so. Wait, come on. Let go of my computer. We can go on, and we go here to not Fox News panelists laughed at for defending Trump's call to Raffensperger. Well, if he was threatening, to do something unlawful to him, I could understand that. But a discussion of the law, let's see, let's find out what they're saying. Conservative news site Clear Politics crackled at the right-wing attorney and political analyst Gail Trotter tried to explain away the president's apparent threats to the Georgia Secretary of State to find enough votes. No. It's exactly opposite of what happened. See, the Secretary of State is threatening not to do anything, is threatening the president with unlawful acts. Trump's smoking gun tape is worse than Nixon's, but congressional Republicans have less incentive to do anything about it. What was the issue with Nixon again? The edited tape. Are you ready for this, folks? Are you really ready for this? You're right. It is Watergate. But guess who gets to go down this time? It isn't President Trump. They're really trying to redirect this to President Trump. It has nothing to do with President Trump. This illegal action, this unlawful action, illegally performed, without legalities being considered. The legal actions being considered, they took legal action. So, I think it's about right here. I have to skip around just a little bit.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Yeah, well, I do, because we had ours magnified out. So
But
each
we have
one
watched-
magnified out.
I've watched the entire thing.
Right, but nobody can make a case for that, Brett. Nobody. I mean, look, you'd have to be a child to think anything other than that. Just a child. I mean, you never Trump attorney
How
there.
many ballots? How many ballots, Mr. Secretary, are you saying that were processed in?
We had GPI certainly investigate that. This is Ryan Germany, we had our law enforcement officers talk to everyone who was there after that event came to light. The GBI was with them as well as FBI agents.
Well, there's no way they could find. Then they're incompetent. They're either dishonest or incompetent. Okay, there's only two answers: dishonesty or incompetence. There's just no way. Look, there's no way. And on the other thing I said too, there's no way. I mean, there's no way that these things could have been. You have all these different people that voted, but they don't live in Georgia anymore. What was that number, Clay? That was a pretty good number too. Yeah.
Well, the number
Here it
has
comes.
registered out of state after they moved from Georgia. And so they had a date when they moved from Georgia. They registered to vote out of state, and then they've like 4,500. I don't have that right in front of me.
And then they came back in and they voted.
And voted. Yeah.
No, that was a large number, though. It was in the 20s. And, the point
We've
is...
been going through each of those as well, and those numbers that we got, that Ms. Mitchell was just saying, they're not accurate. Everyone we've been through are people that lived in Georgia, moved to a different state, but then moved back to Georgia legitimately. And in many cases...
Really? How many people do that?
So
You mean they moved out and then they said, the hell with it, I'll move back in? It doesn't sound like a very normal... You mean they moved out, and what, they missed it so much that they wanted to move back in? It's crazy.
Well, and they moved back in years ago. This was not like something just before the election. So there's something about that data it's just not accurate.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that it is certified, and they moved out of Georgia, and they voted. It didn't say they moved back in, Clayton, did it?
No, but I mean, we're looking at the voter register. Again, if you have additional records, we've been asking for that. But you haven't shared any of that with us. You just keep saying you've
But
investigated.
Lita, a lot of it you
the
don't
allegations.
need to be shared. I mean, to be honest, they should share it. They should share it because you want to get to an honest election. I won this election by hundreds of thousands of votes. There's no way I lost Georgia. There's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. I'm just going by small numbers. When you add them up, they're many times the 11,000. But I won that state by hundreds of thousands of votes. Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines.
Okay, we have record of both of that happening. We have people that have recorded them shredding actual documents right there, the envelopes that they arrived in that they are supposed to verify the signature from. Remember? Okay. And guess what? There's no records of them at all. There's no record. There's no record of them passing. It doesn't show what precinct. It doesn't have a UPC sticker or tag on it, or UPS. Is that it? UPC or UPS? UPC, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't have that little weird computer scan on it in order to be able to track it, and you can't track those. So what are happening to these? Take a look at your screen right now. Do you realize that there is people that are directly involved in this investigation that shall not be named? Listen to what happens next.
That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
But have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines?
Ding, 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 ding. We already have confirmation that they have actually swapped out the boards and things, preparing for what? The next election. What was wrong with the boards in it to begin with? But we already have them documented, that they did indeed change out the software. I wonder why. Of course. But you know something? There's no documentation or footprint of that other than the witnesses and the photographs of them doing it. Oops.
And replace them with other parts.
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure, Mr. President.
And what about the ballots? The shredding of the ballots. Have they been shredding ballots?
No. The only investigation that we have into that, they have not been shredding any ballots. There was an issue in Cobb County where they were doing normal, office shredding, getting rid of old stuff, and we investigated that. And this is stuff from, past elections.
No, I don't know.
And that's what
it doesn't pass the smell test, though, because we hear they're shredding thousands and thousands of ballots, and now what they're saying, we're just cleaning up the office. I don't think that's plenty.
Well, that's easy to solve. How many ballots do they have, and how many votes was cast during the election? Now we have positive proof of election tampering. Oops. You see, that's what they're protecting in Georgia. They're so scared now that they have been caught up. They are that scared. And the president has this on documentation. He knew they were going to do this. He put his people in place. He has affidavits to show how they were doing it. They have a criminal investigation that takes longer than what the actual determination of the presidency will be. But that doesn't mean that the criminal charges will be ignored after he is no longer president, and it will lobotomize the Biden administration completely. Do you get it now? This is actually draining the swamp, because all the swamp creatures came out to try to mess with Trump. That's what this is boiling down to.
Mr. President, the problem you have with social media, people can say anything.
No, this isn't social media. This is Trump media. It's not social media. It's really not. It's not social media. I don't care about social. I couldn't care less. Social media is big tech. Big tech is on your side. I don't even know why you have a side, because you should want to have an accurate election. And you're a Republican.
We believe, but we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes, and just on the small numbers, you're off on these numbers, and these numbers can't be just. Well, why won't? Okay, so you send us into Cobb County for signature verification, right? You send us into Cobb County, which we didn't want to go into, and you said it would be open to the public, and we could have our. So we had our experts there. They weren't allowed into the room. But we didn't want Cobb County. We wanted Fulton County, and you wouldn't give it to us. Now, why aren't we doing signature, and why can't it be open to the public, and why can't we have professionals do it instead of rank amateurs that will never find anything and don't want to find anything? They don't want to find, they don't want to find anything. Someday you'll tell me the reason why, because I don't know.
Joining us now is Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. She's the top Democrat on the Senate Rules Committee, which means she has a key role in Wednesday's certification process, including leading the Democratic response to the challenges that Republicans are planning to raise. Senator Klobuchar, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thanks, Rachel. And let me say at the outset, 12:01 p.m. on January 20th, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be inaugurated as the President and Vice President of the United States. So I
understand your reasoning, but someday you'll tell me the reason why. But why don't you want to find?
We chose Cobb County.
Why don't you want to
find?
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so why did you do Cobb County? We didn't even we requested Fulton County, not Cobb County.
Well, Mr. President, we did have in our election contest.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
We chose Cobb County because that was the only county where there's been any evidence submitted that the signature verification was not properly done.
Well, no, but I told you, but we're not saying that. We are the aggrieved party. Fulton County, look, Stacey, in my opinion, Stacey is as dishonest as they come. She has outplayed you at every heart, at everything. She got you to sign a totally unconstitutional agreement, which is a disastrous agreement. You can't check signatures. You can't do it. I can't imagine you're allowed to do harvesting, I guess, in that agreement. That agreement is a disaster for this country. But she got you somehow to sign that thing, and she's outsmarted you at every step. And I hate to imagine what's going to happen on Monday or Tuesday, but it's very scary to people, where the ballots flow in out of nowhere. It's very scary to people. That consent decree is a disaster. It's a disaster. A very good lawyer who examined it said they've never seen anything like it. And
harvesting is still illegal in the state of Georgia, and that settlement agreement did not change that.
Well, it's not a settlement agreement. It's a consent decree. It even says consent decree on it, doesn't it? It uses the term consent decree. It doesn't say settlement agreement. It's a consent decree. It's a disaster.
It's a settlement agreement.
Now, let me tell you something. They just renamed what they did, and that's perfectly okay. As long as they rename it. What? Consent decree is a settlement. No, it's not. You see, it's the result of a settlement, but was the settlement lawful? You see, that's what the Trump is informing him, that he knows all these tricks have been done, that all these things have been done, and they've been documented. They are in the public record, and there's no getting rid of them. It's simple as that. This has got them running for the hills. This has got to stop. The twisty, churny things. When we sit there and we watch videos like this, and we know that these things are going on, and this is not what the mainstream... They're telling you that Trump is in trouble. I don't see where Trump is in trouble here. I see no problem whatsoever with Trump. I do see a problem with this gentleman. I see a problem with the lady that was sitting there harvesting ballots in that county. And I see a problem with this, well, release of what? Censored tape.
What's written on top of it?
Ryan?
I don't have it in front of me, but it was not entered by the court. It's not a court order.
No, it's called. But Ryan, it's called the consent decree. Is that right on the paper? Is that right?
I don't believe so. I don't.
You hear him running. You see, he's pulling the rug out from under him. Oh my God, they're pulling the rug out from under our bullshit. Oh no, panic, panic. Press comes to the rescue. The press comes to the rescue.
An election official to find 11,780 votes for him.
This is the ultimate smoking gun tape. It is the tape with the evidence of what this president is willing to do to undermine
the corrupt effort of Georgia officials. Boy, that was easy to fix. Isn't that wonderful? To undermine the corrupt actions of the officials. Because we have the corrupt actions, it's just none of them will pick up the ball and say, oh, that is corrupt. Terribly sorry. None of them are being fair about the power that has been given to them. And that is the issue that we have. Now, I can go ahead and continue to play this tape that is just simply saying all the improprieties of what they have already discovered. Now, their claims that this is nefarious is bullshit, because it takes longer for a criminal investigation than it will be in order to inaugurate somebody. I got news for you. This here is all going down to Pence. And if they do not change the Georgia, Pence is going to find in favor of Trump. This is my prediction. If Georgia does not straighten out their act, Pence is going to find in favor of Trump, and they're immediately going to put criminal charges. As soon as they got him, it doesn't matter if it's spitting on the sidewalk, as soon as they can actually arrest him in order to detain them long enough, guess what? In order to finish their investigation for much greater charges. And the press is going to cry. I guarantee you, we need to stick together. We need to get out here, and we need to show our solidarity. That's all there is to it.
I don't have it in front of me. Whatever, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Look, here's the problem. We can go through signature verification, and we'll find hundreds of thousands of signatures if you let us do it. And the only way you can do it, as you know, is to go to the past. But you didn't do that in Cobb County. You just looked at one page compared to another. The only way you can do a signature verification is go from the one that signed it on November, whatever, recently, and compare it to 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, you know, or even one. And you'll find that you have many different signatures. But in Fulton, where they dumped ballots, you will find that you have many that aren't even signed, and you have many that are forgeries, okay? You know that. You know that. You have no doubt about that. And you will find, you will be at 11,779 within minutes, because Fulton County is totally corrupt, and so is she totally corrupt. And they're going around playing you and laughing at you behind your back, Brad. Whether you know it or not, they're laughing at you. And you've taken a state that's a Republican state, and you've made it almost impossible for a Republican to win because of cheating, because they cheated like nobody's ever cheated before. And I don't care how long it takes me. You know, we're going to have other states coming forward pretty good. But I won't. This is never given. We have some incredible talent. Said they've never seen anything. Now, the problem is they need more time for the big numbers, but they are very substantial numbers. And I think you're going to find that they, by the way, a little information, I think you're going to find that they are shredding ballots because they have to get rid of the ballots because the ballots are unsigned. The ballots are corrupt. And they're brand new and they don't have seals. And there's a whole thing with the ballots, but the ballots are corrupt. And you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyers. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, and there's just, it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know. A lot of people think it wasn't a mistake. It was much more criminal than that.
Georgia election officials claiming that he won the 2020 election and threatening legal action. Let's take a listen to one of those clips.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, but they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen.
With that, let's bring back our panel. Associate Editor for Real Clear Politics, A.B. Stoddard, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarloff, and Right in D.C. host and attorney Gail Trotter. A.B., start us off. Your reaction to the audio obtained by the Washington Post.
Well, the accounts of the whole hour's worth of sound really show that the president has been told by people, I guess, around him, like Mark Meadows is also on the call, that there is, fraud that needs to be looked into. So he has not read it in the paper. He's not seen it in a court docket. He's never actually been presented with evidence that Raffensperger has that he's hiding. But he's accusing Raffensperger of doing that. And then he says, of course, things like, in my opinion, machines are being shredded, so ballots are being shredded. So this is incredibly politically damaging to President Trump. He does not care one iota about that. But when we talk about Wednesday, when we talk about Republican lawmakers in the House and the Senate objecting to the certification of a free and fair, legitimate election with allegations of fraud and evidence of fraud they have not yet presented, this phone call where the president is threatening a Secretary of State who has counted the votes 3 times, a Republican who supported him, is going to be very hard for them to defend.
Jessica, your reaction to the audio.
Here's the part of the show, or part of the call, they didn't want to show you, because there's a lot more to this than him telling them, hey, listen, there's criminal action here. You bet there is. But you see, that's not up to him, but they're saying it is. Fact is, they've been caught, and the president's letting them know. Let's listen.
But it's a big problem in Georgia, and it's not a problem that's going away. I mean, it's not a problem that's going away. And we got to...
President, this is Ryan. We're looking into every one of those things that you mentioned.
Okay,
and our
that's
investigators,
good. But if you find them, you got to say it, right? Look, if they're... Let me ask you, Ryan, if they're destroying ballots...
Let me tell you what we are seeing.
Go ahead. Good.
What we're seeing is not at all what you're describing.
Okay.
And these are investigators from our office. These are investigators from GBI, and they're looking and they're good, and that's not what they're seeing. And we'll keep looking. We'll keep looking at all these things.
Well, you better check on the ballots, because they are shredding ballots, Ryan. I'm just telling you, Ryan, they're shredding ballots, and you should look at that very carefully, because that's so illegal. You may not even believe it because it's so bad, but they're shredding ballots because they think we're going to eventually get there, because we'll eventually get into Fulton. It's in my opinion, it's never too late. So, little double sound deck. So that's the story, fellas. Look, we need only 11,000 votes. We have far more than that as it stands now. We'll have more and more. And do you have provisional ballots at all, Brad? Provisional ballots?
Provisional ballots are allowed, by state law.
Sure, but do you have them? I mean, are they counted, or did you just hold them back because they, in other words, how many provisional ballots do you have in the state?
We'll get you that number.
Because most of them are made out to the name Trump, because these are people that were scammed when they came in, and we have thousands of people that have testified or that want to testify. When they came in, they were proudly going to vote on November 3rd, and they were told, I'm sorry, you've already been voted for, you've already voted. The women, men started screaming, no, I proudly voted till November 3rd. They said, I'm sorry, but you already been voted for, and you have a ballot. And these people are beside themselves. So they went out and they filled in a provisional ballot, putting the name Trump on it. And what about that batch of military ballots that came in? And even though I won the military by a lot,
If that's a D worrier,
it was 100%
I hope it
Trump.
is.
Do you know? I mean, 100% Biden. Do you know about that? A large group of ballots came in. I think it was to Fulton County, and they just happened to be 100% for Trump, even though for Biden, even though Trump won the military by a lot. A tremendous amount. But these ballots were 100% for Biden. And do you know about that? A very substantial number came in, all for Biden. Does anybody know about it?
I know about it, but we were never.
Okay, Cleta, wait. I'm not asking you, Cleta, honestly. I'm asking Brad. Do you know about the military ballots that we have confirmed now? Do you know about the military ballots that came in that were 100%? I mean, 100% for Biden. Do you know about that?
I don't know about that. I do know that we have, when military ballots come in, it's not just military. It's also military and overseas citizens. The military part of that does generally go Republican. The overseas citizen part of it generally goes very Democrat.
No, but this was
a mix of them.
Yeah, that's okay. But I got like 78% in the military. These ballots were all for this. They didn't tell me overseas. Could be overseas too, but I get votes overseas too, Ryan. In all fairness. No, they came in. A large batch came in, and it was quote 100% for Biden, and that.
You see, folks, the issue here is the fact that this is an impossibility. What happened, I'll tell you what happened, okay, in hindsight. It's easy to see that this happened. They had fixed this gently, just a little bit, in their favor, hoping that that was going to be enough. And it became quite apparent during the election itself it wasn't going to do shit. That they had lost terribly, and people panicked. And they flooded everything that they could from anybody that was cooperating with us, panicked, and dumped as much as they could into it all at once, creating these huge spikes and irregularities, which are most apparent in the, key states, Florida, Georgia, California. And Georgia's probably going to be the easiest egg to crack, okay, because there's too much California in California. And as far as Florida is concerned, we know what happened during the Bush recount. They recounted the same ballots the same way. And, if they lost their court things too, right? Okay, we remember that. And Bush won, didn't he? Huh. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Is criminal. That's criminal. Okay, that's another criminal. That's another of the many criminal events. Many criminal events here. I don't know. Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes, and I have them times a lot, and therefore I won the state. That's before we go to the next step, which is in the process of right now, you know. And I watched you this morning, and you said, well, there was no criminality, but I mean, all of this stuff is very dangerous stuff. When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous for you to say that. I just don't know why you don't want to have the votes counted as they are. Like even you, when you went and did that check, and I was surprised because, you know, I didn't consider the check, and we found a few thousand votes that were against me. I was actually surprised because the way that check was done, all you're doing is recertifying existing votes. And, you know, you were given votes and you just counted them up. And you still found 3,000 that were bad. That was sort of surprising. That came down to 3 or 5, I don't know, a lot, you know, still a lot of votes. But you have to go back to check from past years with respect to signatures. And if you check with Fulton County, you'll have hundreds of thousands because they dumped ballots into Fulton County and the other county next to it. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. You know, we have that in spades already, or we can keep it going. But that's not fair to the voters of Georgia because they're going to see what happened. And they're going to see what happened. I mean, I'll take on anybody you want with regard to Ruby Freeman and her lovely daughter. A very lovely young lady, I'm sure. But Ruby Freeman, I will take Freeman. I will take on anybody you want. And the minimum, there were 18,000 ballots, but they used them 3 times. So that's, you know, a lot of votes. And that one event, and they were all to Biden, by the way. That's the other thing we didn't say. You know, the Ruby Freeman, one thing I forgot to say, which was the most important. You know that every single ballot she did went to Biden. You know that, right? Do you know that, by the way, Brett? Every single ballot that she did through the machine at early in the morning went to Biden. Did you know that, Ryan?
That's not accurate, Mr. President.
Huh. What is accurate?
The numbers that we are showing are accurate.
No, about Ruby Freeman, about early in the morning, Ryan, when the woman took when the whole gang took the stuff out of from under the table, right? Do you know do you know who those ballots, do you know who they were made out to? Do you know who they were voting for?
No, not specifically.
Did you ever check?
It's clear there's even more improprieties here. So we multiply all these things and we say, oh, well, the press hasn't mentioned any of this. They just keep repeating over and over again, unsubstantiated, unfounded, unsubstantiated, ridiculous. Totally, listen, people, these are what they refer to as spin words. That's what it is, spin words. Oh, total atrocity, and then 14 other variances of words before you actually get down to what the hell happened. No, people, we need a spin word detector. Now, I gave up trying to give this to somebody specially, okay? And I'm going to just say it, friends in code. You know, I'm not your enemy. I'm not the one that sat there and created the situation. I don't give a rat's ass. I'm not part of the get-along gang, but I am not your enemy either. And I am not somebody that doesn't care about the people around me or people that have shown me kindness or whatever. I tried to reach out to him in order to let him know that what he needs to do is make maybe something that reads, you know, this news. You know, do a voice to text, all right? And then after you get the text, to look for spin words. And then print those spin words on the screen. I think that would be fucking hilarious. Okay, spin, 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 and you put the word on the screen and then spin it, and then put the next word on the screen and spin it. I think it would be a great spin word detector. And you know something? It will make a mockery out of these mainstream media people, because they're worse than any Karen I've ever met. Anywhere I've ever met anybody that nobody could be this bad as the mainstream media right now. This is ridiculous.
We did what I described to you earlier.
No. Did you ever check the ballots that were scammed by Ruby Freeman, a known political operative balloteer? Did you ever check who those votes were for?
We've looked into that situation that you described.
No, they were 100% for Biden. 100%. There wasn't a Trump vote in the whole group. Why don't you want to find this, Ryan? What's wrong with you? I heard your lawyer is very difficult, actually, but I'm sure you're a good lawyer. You have a nice last name. But I'm just curious, why do you keep fighting this thing? It just doesn't make sense. We're way over the 17,779, right? We're way over that number. And just if you took just Ruby Freeman, we're over that number by five or six times when you multiply it out times 3. And every single ballot went to Biden. And you didn't know that, but now you know it. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. But he's making them with such, he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot. You know. So.
Mr. President, you have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
Why do you say that, though? I don't know. I mean, sure, we can play this game with the courts, but why do you say that? Now, first of all, they don't even assign us a judge. They don't even assign us a judge. But why wouldn't you, hey, Brad, why wouldn't you want to check out Ruby Freeman, and why wouldn't you want to say, hey, if in fact President Trump is right about that, then he wins the state of Georgia. Just that one incident alone, without going through hundreds of thousands of drop ballots. You just say you stick by, I mean, I've been watching you for, you know, you don't care about anything. Your numbers are right. But your numbers aren't right. They're really wrong. And they're really wrong, Brad. And I know this phone call's going nowhere other than ultimately, you know, look, ultimately I win, okay? Because
Mr. Secretary,
you guys are so wrong, and you've treated the population of Georgia so badly. Between you and your governor, who was down at 21, he was down 21 points, and like a schmuck, I endorsed him, and he got elected. But I will tell you, he's a disaster, and he'll never. I can't imagine. The people are so angry in Georgia. I can't imagine he's ever getting elected again. I'll tell you that much right now. But why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? Because those numbers are so wrong.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. President, I mean, one of the things that we have been, Alex talked about this, we talked about it, and I don't know whether the information has been conveyed to your office, but
here it comes. Nobody else can get it except the governor.
Say, look, the court is not acting on our petition. They haven't even assigned a judge. But the people of Georgia and the people of America have a right to know the answers. And you have data and records that we don't have access to. And you keep telling us and making public statements that you've investigated this and, you know, nothing to see here. But we don't know about that. All we know is what you tell us. what I don't understand is why it wouldn't be in everyone's best interest to try to get to the bottom, compare the numbers, as you say, because to try to be able.
What would be wrong with the rest of us looking at what you've determined?
Because we don't.
What's wrong with the rest of us looking and seeing the evidence that you're referring to?
What you're telling us. You tell us that you've had an investigation.
You see, as long as they don't look, there ain't no evidence.
I don't have any report. I've never seen a report of investigation. I don't know what that is. I've been pretty involved in this, and I don't know. And that's just one of 25 categories. And it doesn't even, and as the president said, we haven't even gotten into the Dominion issue. That's not part of our case. It's not part of, we just didn't feel as though we had any way to be able to develop.
No, we do have a way, but I don't want to get into it
Exactly.
because we found a way in other states, Slater, excuse me, but we don't need it because we're only down 11,000 votes, so we don't even need it. I personally think they're corrupt as hell, but we don't need that because all we have to do, Slater, is find 11,000 plus votes. So we don't need that. I'm not looking to shake up the whole world. We won Georgia easily. We won it by hundreds of thousands of votes, but if you go by basic, simple numbers, we won it easily. So we're not giving Dominion a pass on the record.
Right, exactly.
But we just don't, we don't need Dominion because we have so many other votes that we don't need to prove it any more than we already have.
Mr. President, Lita, this is Kurt Hilbert, if I might interject here for a moment. Ryan, I would like to suggest that just 4 categories that have already been mentioned by the president that have actually hard numbers of 24,149 votes that were counted illegally. That in and of itself is sufficient to change the results or place the outcome in doubt.
Double what is required.
With your office, and we can do it through purposes of compromise and settlement, just like
By that single event that they've already documented.
Category of votes. And if you are able to establish that our numbers are not accurate, then fine. However, we believe that they are accurate. We've had now 3 to 4 separate experts look at these numbers. These numbers are based upon the USPS.
And certified accountants looked at them.
Correct. And this is just based on USPS data and your own Secretary of State data. So that's what we would entreat and ask you to do, to sit down with us in a compromise and settlement proceeding and actually go through the registered voter IDs and the registrations. And if you can convince us that 24,149 is inaccurate, then fine. But we tend to believe that is, obviously more than 11,779. That's sufficient to change the result entirely in and of itself. So what would you say to that, Mr. Germany?
Kurt, I'm happy to, I'll get with our lawyers and we'll set that up. That number is not accurate, and I think we can show you, for all the ones we've looked at, why it's not. And so if that would be helpful, I'm happy to get with our lawyers and set that up with you guys.
Well, let me ask you, Kurt. Kurt, you think that is an accurate number. That was based on the information given to you by the Secretary of State's Department, right?
That is correct. That information is the minimum, most conservative data based upon the USPS data and the Secretary of State's office data that has been made publicly available. We do not have the internal numbers from the Secretary of State, yet we have asked for it 6 times. I've sent a letter over to Mr. Anolowitz several times requesting this information, and it's been rebuffed every single time. So it stands to reason that if the information is not forthcoming, there's something to hide. That's the problem that we have.
Well, that's not the case. There are things that you guys are entitled to get, and there's things that under law we are not allowed to give out.
Well, you have to. Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow because you have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president. Okay, they hate it, and they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, really respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on Tuesday, and therefore I think that it really is important that you meet tomorrow and work out on these numbers, because I know, Brad, that if you think we're right, I think you're going to say, and I'm not looking to blame anybody. I'm just saying that under new counts and under new views of the election results, we won the election. It's all, it's very simple. We won the election. As the governor of major states and the surrounding states said, there is no way you lost Georgia. As the Georgia politicians say, there is no way you lost Georgia. Nobody, everyone knows I won it by hundreds of thousands of votes. But I'll tell you, it's going to have a big impact on Tuesday if you guys don't get this thing straightened out fast.
Well, Mr. President, this is Mark. Let me just, it sounds like we've got two different sides agreeing that we can look at those areas, and I assume that we can do that within the next 24 to 48 hours to go ahead and get that reconciled so that we can look at the two claims and making sure that we get the access to the Secretary of State's data to either validate or invalidate the claims that have been made. Is that correct?
So that's not what I said. I'm happy to sit down with, or have our lawyers sit down with Kurt and the lawyers on that side and explain to him, hey, here's, based on what we've looked at so far, here's how we know this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And we
so what you're saying, Ryan, hold on, let me make sure. So what you're saying is you really don't want to give access to the data. You just want to make another case on why the lawsuit is wrong?
I don't think we can give access to data that's protected by law. But we can sit down with them and say,
but
hey,
you're allowed to have a phony election? You're allowed to have a phony election, right?
No, sir.
When are you going to do the signature counts on that? When are you going to do signature verification on Fulton County? Which you said you were going to do, and now all of a sudden you're not doing it. When are you doing that?
Mr. President,
we've announced.
To get to this issue of the personal information and privacy issue, is it possible that the Secretary of State could deputize the lawyers for the President so that we could access that information, that private information, without you having any kind of violation?
Well, I don't want to know who it is. You guys can do it very confidentially. You can sign a confidentiality
Oh, wait a minute.
agreement.
You mean they're too scared in order to be charged themselves in order to allow anyone to look at it?
But we got
That
the
makes sense.
On this stuff that we're talking about, we got all that information from the Secretary of State.
Yeah, so let me recommend.
The evidence comes from the Secretary of State, which is supposed to be the same source as the Georgia guy, but he's running away, not saying where he got the information from, huh?
Some of what we've got with your attorneys, where we can actually look at the data. For example, Mr. Secretary, I can tell you, you said there was only 2 dead people that would vote. I can promise you there are more than that, and that may be what your investigation shows, but I can promise you there are more than that. But at the same time, I think it's important that we go ahead and move expeditiously to try to do this and resolve it as quickly as we possibly can. And if that's the good next step, hopefully we can finish this phone call and go ahead and agree that the two of you will get together immediately.
Well, why don't my lawyers show you where you got the information? It'll show the Secretary of State, and you don't even have to look at any names. We don't want names. We don't care. But we got that information from you. And Stacey Abrams is laughing about, she's going around saying these guys are dumber than a rock. What she's done to this party is unbelievable, I tell you. And I only ran against her once, and that was with a guy named Brian Kemp, and I beat her. And if I didn't run, Brian wouldn't have had even a shot, either in the general or in the primary. He was dead as a doornail. He never thought he had a shot at either one of them. What a schmuck I was. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. I would like you to, for the attorneys on my side, I'd like you to perhaps meet with Ryan, ideally tomorrow, because I think we should come to a resolution of this before the election. Otherwise, you could have you're going to have people just not voting. They don't want to vote. They hate the state. They hate the governor, and they hate the Secretary of State. I will tell you that right now. And the only people that like you are people that will never vote for you. You know that, Brad, right? They like you, They like you. They can't believe what they found. They want more people like you. So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. That's the real truth. But we don't need 400,000 votes. We need less than 2,000 votes. And are you guys able to meet tomorrow, Ryan?
I'll get with Chris, the lawyer who's representing us in the case, and see when he can get together with Kurt.
All right.
Ryan will be in touch with the other attorney on this call, Mr. Meadows. Thank you, President Trump, for your time.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And let your neighbors hear a real stereo.
The Hawk, Ethernet Radio.
97.3.